If you've been watching the channel for a while, then you may have seen my video on the iPad 8th gen. While this was a good iPad for me at the time of purchase, as my tablet needs started to evolve, I came to the conclusion that I would need an upgrade. After researching multiple options, I eventually came to the iPad Pro 11-inch 2nd generation, and I'll tell you why. This is William from WinkTech, and in this video, I'll be telling you about my experience with the iPad Pro so far, and why it might be a good option for you. First of all, let's talk about why I decided on getting the iPad Pro 2nd gen. Initially, I just wanted a tablet that could be used for media consumption, occasional note-taking, and some light photo editing. The iPad 8 was, and still is, very good at these things, but as my needs grew, I needed something better. I wanted to still use it for media consumption, but wanted to be more serious about digital note-taking, and wanted to do more photo editing and possibly video editing. I had been looking at different options for a while, and one of the models I was strongly considering was the iPad Air 4th generation. The advantages it had over my iPad 8 were it had a newer design, a better chip, better speakers, a better camera, and perhaps most importantly, Apple Pencil's 2nd gen support. It was listed on the Apple refurbished store for $589 Canadian, which was a pretty decent price, and I almost went for it. However, one day I noticed that they added the iPad Pro 2 to the refurbished store for $649 Canadian. I bought it instantly. To me, this was a no-brainer. Not only was it better than the iPad Air I was considering, but it wasn't that much more, and the iPad Pro has not changed much since this model was introduced, save for an arguably overkill M1 and M2 chip. In my opinion, this model should last me much longer than my iPad 8 would have, and I'll tell you why later on. Next, let's go over the specs. This iPad Pro 2 11-inch is rocking the new design with a thin, uniform bezel. It has the A12Z processor, 6GB of RAM, 120Hz ProMotion P3 display, 128GB of storage, dual cameras, and quad speakers. For comparison, my iPad 8 has the old home button design with the A12 processor, 3GB of RAM, a 60Hz sRGB display, 32GB of storage, a single 5MP camera, and stereo speakers but only on the bottom. Another key difference is the iPad 8 supports the 1st gen Apple Pencil, while the iPad Pro supports the much superior 2nd gen. Although this iPad is a couple of years old, it still feels very modern, and has more than enough power to do everything I do on it. The iPad Pro flies through daily tasks like web browsing, watching YouTube or Netflix, and answering emails or messages. But when you start to do more demanding tasks is where the iPad really shines. Editing multiple photos in Lightroom and exporting them is really fast, and multitasking is really smooth. However, one of the best things about this iPad is taking notes and annotating. Personally, I use GoodNotes 5 as my primary note-taking app, and I can highly recommend it to people who are interested in using the iPad for taking notes, and especially students. Writing is really smooth with the 120Hz display, and it feels as instant as putting pencil to paper. There is a learning curve to writing with something like the Apple Pencil, but once you are comfortable with it, there are a lot of advantages, such as being able to rearrange notes and draw perfect shapes. Another advantage is that you can back up your notes to iCloud, so you can be sure you always have them with you and you'll never lose them. Another app that I've been using quite frequently is Adobe Fresco, which is a sketching app that works really great on the iPad with Apple Pencil. Lately I've been using it to do sketches for my UI design course, and it's been very handy for that. The Apple Pencil 2nd gen also plays a big part in making writing and drawing very smooth. It has very low latency, has a flat side that can be double tapped for functions such as switching to the eraser and vice versa. One of my favorite parts about it is that for charging it attaches magnetically to the side and makes the iPad feel kinda like a clipboard. Another thing that isn't revolutionary but much more enjoyable on the iPad Pro as opposed to other iPads is media consumption. I would say that all the iPads have decent displays, but the iPad Pro is Retina and covers the P3 color gamut, so it's very color accurate. It is also 1668 by 2388 resolution, giving it a pixel density of 265 pixels per inch, which is perfectly sharp for a tablet. The display also gets pretty bright with a peak brightness of 600 nits, and it is laminated, which means that there isn't a gap between the glass and the actual display. For the audio, it has quad speakers, so even if you don't have your headphones with you, the audio quality and volume on these speakers are nothing short of impressive. The one downside I would say is it doesn't have a headphone jack, so I did have to get a USB-C to headphone jack adapter to be able to enjoy my wired headphones on this iPad. Finally, let's talk about the cameras. This iPad Pro comes with a 12 megapixel wide camera as well as a 10 megapixel ultra wide camera. Although it may not seem important to have a good camera on an iPad, it is actually really helpful for a few things. As a student, it can be helpful for things such as taking pictures of the board while your teacher is writing things down, or adding quick photos into your notes. With the inclusion of a LiDAR sensor, it can also enable better AR experiences as well as 3D scanning for modeling. The iPad Pro also includes a flash, which can be helpful for scanning documents. The front-facing camera and sensors enable Face ID to unlock the device, which is exclusive to the iPad Pro, and can also do portrait mode selfies. How important that is, I'll leave up to you. In conclusion, do I think that the iPad Pro 2nd Gen is still a good tablet in 2023, and is it worth it in 2023? First of all, it's still a fantastic iPad, considering it is almost exactly the same as the current 11-inch iPad Pro, with the only difference being the amount of memory and the processor. It still beats the recently released iPad 10 and the iPad Air in value. Would I recommend buying it? If you can find a deal as I did on the Apple Refurbished store or any other store, I'd say it's a no-brainer. For 650 Canadian dollars, I got a fantastic tablet with a great display, great speakers, a fast processor, plenty of storage, and Apple Pencil 2 support, and I have no doubt that it will last me many years to come. If you're set on getting a new iPad and you're on a budget, I'd for sure go for the iPad 9 as it's still a solid tablet and you can often find deals on it. However, I would avoid the iPad 10 as the value proposition is questionable. As for the more premium iPads, you can't go wrong with the iPad Air or iPad Pro. Both have very powerful chips and great features. Well, that's about it for this review. Let me know in the comments below if you've been looking for an iPad for school or for something else, and which iPad have you been considering? If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing for more content just like this. Anyway, this has been William from Wink Tech, and I'll see you in the next video.